Hello, everyone. Just want to welcome you all to the to this comp session. Market data is always a hot and spicy subject, so I hope you guys are enjoying the Indian theme. Please help yourselves at any time while we're having the presentation to help yourself to some food. I'm going to basically take you through some market data concepts and cover some detail. All right. Market data has been touched upon a couple of times here and there in other comp sessions. We felt that it was important to rather have a market data focus session. My name is Neil Vindero and I work in the Information Services Division. So what we're going to cover, I'm just going to give you a couple of architectural pointers. I'm going to then step into the live data and then I'm going to step into the non-live and then I'm going to cover a number of general subjects. Obviously important is cover the legal and commercials because that's obviously something quite important. And then also go through the steps, the market data steps in the journey. There's lots of changes to market data and it's important that you guys have a very good sense of what is changing. And just for interest's sake, I've put a definition of public market data there. It's really literally any data that we provide that is not confidential to a particular client. It also covers both live and non-live. And non-live is really just a concept that we are starting to use because typically people have been used to end-of-day data, but we're starting to move more and more into the world where we produce a lot of data files and reports during the day. So we thought we'd rather come up with a more umbrella word non-live that covers both during the day and stuff that we provide after the day. So I've also, just for the convenience, I've put a couple of definitions. These are JIC definitions, by the way, not international definitions. And as out of interest's sake, delayed and historical data is also classified as non-live data. So this architectural picture has been presented in a couple of comp sessions before. It mainly represents the external facing systems. So the areas that I'm really going to talk about today are largely the areas that are ungrayed. So I've tried to keep the visuals pretty much the way that the other comp sessions have been, just for consistency. So the first one is that, once again, keep an eye on these indicators on the bottom left because they basically tell you what's changing, what's new, and what are we discontinuing. So the first one is we are going to introduce a full depth order book. Okay, so it's going to be a feed that's going to have everything and it's going to be a true real-time tick-by-tick feed. Okay, so it's not going to be a snapshot feed. It's not going to be to a limited depth. We're also going to make available a top of order book, which typically some of you guys might be familiar with the term of level 1. We typically use level 2 or level 1. This is the level 1 feed. And as I say it, unless I make a distinct difference, I'm applying it to both markets, currency derivatives and the equity derivatives. Also important to know that for the full market depth, we are going to be making available both a throttled and an unthrottled feed. Okay, so that's obviously for the different needs of different clients. We're also going to extend our POP offering. So we're going to replace the feed, the equity derivatives feed that we have there right now. And we're going to introduce the FX feeds as well. And I'll talk a bit more as we go through the detail. You'll see as I go through the slides, it pretty much just adds more and more detail. And the whole intent was to make absolutely sure that by the time you guys leave the session, you have a very clear understanding. We're also going to do quite a bit of work, and you would have picked that up in the reference data comp session recently and in other sessions and in documentation that we've published, that there are material changes to reference data. It also spans into the market data. We're also going to make more data available through the extended stats message. from last year, we didn't have extended stats on the level 2 feed. We introduced that for the equity market. We're now going to introduce the extended stats message both for the level 1 and the level 2 feed for the new feeds. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about what's key about that extended stats message in a subsequent slide. And obviously, you know, for the people that have been used to the Mitch world and the MIT world, it's going to be a multicast broadcast protocol versus the typical point-to-point connection. And pretty much, as we know, we're going to do take on a lot of the functionality that you get with MIT technology. So you're going to have a lot more, you know, data updates based on auctions and the likes. Just a point I wanted to make is about the market data. We had representations from the clearing members about them wanting to access certain data, but they didn't want to connect to a number of different systems. So we made a decision to provide a subset of market data, public market data on the RTC feed, okay? And that's really to support the clearing members. Obviously, what's very important, and this is quite a material change moving from where we are now to the new technology, is that the provision of non-live data through the live feed is not going to take place anymore, all right? And I'll talk a little bit more about that in subsequent slides. So here's a little bit of a detail. So pretty much a recap. It's two types of feeds. It's a full depth feed. It's a top of book feed. The full depth is going to be both throttled and unthrottled. Both feeds will include extended stats. And the extended stats message is going to be our way of actually providing three very important fields to the market, which is the open interest, the notional exposure, and the delta exposure. All right, so that's very important, okay? Just to re-emphasize, non-live data will not be made available to the live feeds. You are going to have to process that kind of data through the data files that we are going to make available. Okay. And the subset of public market data that we'll make available through RTC feed, if you want more information about it, I've put the link to the actual document here for your convenience. Changes to the POP service, so we're going to replace the current equity derivatives feed. Right now it is in a JSE proprietary format. We call it the derivatives market format. We're now going to obviously move it to a Mitch format, and we're going to provide, you know, both the level 1 and level 2 feeds via the JSE POP. We're also going to, which I think will be of value for clients, we're also going to now add the currency derivatives fees as well. I know some of my colleagues will be quite happy because I know there has been interest in that in the past. And what's very important is the existing commodity derivatives feed will continue to remain available through the POP but in the current format, okay? So that's unchanged. It's not in the scope of this phase of the ITaC journey. So just a little schematical visual way to represent this is, obviously there's going to be a number of different ways you can get hold of the live data. The first one is a direct connection to the market data gateways, okay? The second way is if you have a latency need, you have a much faster need or a need for faster access to the data, you can actually connect, come and sit yourself in our co-location data center and actually access the data there. That's the fastest latency. And then the third option, more for international clients, is the POP connection. Okay. And then just to complete it, I've just added there that the subset of data that's available to the clearing members through the RTC feed. Once again, just to tell the story in a different way for your benefit is I've created an as-is to a to-be. So the light first column is the current, and then the column on the right is the to-be. So pretty much you can look at this at your convenience. I've added a bit more detail here on the non-live, the kind of messages that we are talking about that won't be available in the new environment, in the new solution. And then I've added the same view with the FX environment. So that's pretty much the live space. All right, very conceptual. You've already had access to the to a number of documents. You will be aware that for live data, there is a level of conformance that has to be done. It's a fit for purpose for market data rather than being a much more comprehensive one than if you were like a trading participant. I'm going to step into non-live. So one of the big changes we made is because we appreciated and we realized that we were like delivering different types of data through the website via web reports and through our stock standard data records, we decided to create an integrated view. So pretty much the data records that we are producing now is an amalgamation of what was being provided on the website and via our data record products. So we're gonna make changes to our EDM data records. We're gonna add more records to it. We're going to change some of the records. And there's a couple of data records that we're going to discontinue. And purely because we looked at the data inside those data records, we felt that they were either obsolete or they were contained in other data records. The big change with the FX is currently we provide through our data records, we combine interest rate derivatives data and currency derivatives data. With the new changes, we are going to introduce a completely new set of FX data records. Okay, so at least it makes it easier for people that are just have an interest in currency derivatives. And pretty much the interest rate data records that we currently provide will stay as is. So we're not going to expand those records until a later stage. Just to, I think everyone realizes, but let me just emphasize that there is no conformance for the non-live data. I mean, you literally just have to make sure that you're ready for whatever data records you want to subscribe to. Just make sure you're ready, you've tested sufficiently. By the time we go live, there is no conformance. Because we integrated the web reports and the data records, we still felt that we needed to give certain information to the general public. All right, so we decided that we looked at our data record set and we decided to make a number of those data sets, data records available as web reports for the general public for their viewing. So what we'll do, and I'll show you as we go through the detail, there are a number of data records that will be web reports, but they'll be provided in PDF and they'll be provided much later than when we make the data records available. And its intent is really for the general public. The web reports will be exactly the same structure and format and sequence as the data records. All right, so we don't want to create confusion by having more in the data records or you know, less in the data records than what we have in the web reports. It's an exact duplicate. It's just in a report format and it's in a PDF form. So just a recap. So we'll take the FX data out of the IR records and we'll create a completely new set of FX data records and we'll continue providing the IR. We'll also then be providing 16 EDM data records. Okay, so it's quite more than what we currently offer. We are going to discontinue 2 records and we are going to introduce 13 currency derivatives data records. From a web report perspective, we are going to provide 10 EDM web reports. We are going to discontinue 5 because we've managed to combine the data sufficiently. And we are going to provide 9 currency derivatives web reports. 5 currency derivative web reports are going to be discontinued. So from an ecosystem view perspective, it's pretty simple. So typically, I haven't covered it, but typically if you want to trade and connect to the systems, you're gonna have to subscribe to the starter day data files that we provide. And then we're going to obviously offer the EDM and the currency derivatives value add records through our IDP server. And then the web reports are going to be available for the general public through our website. So I think it's important to me to emphasize right now is that the format of the data records are still going to remain fixed with. I know that we've had requests for CSV, but at this point we still need to enhance our data record production system to cater for multiple formats. So that's certainly on the roadmap. As soon as we're ready and we're able to produce multiple output formats, we will notify the markets. Okay. So for now, it's going to be fixed with. I felt once again this kind of structure is going to be useful for clients. So it very much tells you on the left-hand side is the data record picture, and on the right-hand side is the web report picture. Where there's like data, we've put them on the same row so that you can actually see how they relate to each other. And I've put the indicators to visually indicate exactly what's changing versus what's new. And for the convenience, I've also put through the legends there, I've put whether it's a daily file, a quarterly file, and what time. Now one of the things that's worth mentioning is I've got the 2030, so Hoppus 8, but just note that that's our committed SLA time. All right, obviously we'll try and produce the data records much earlier, but what we're committing to is by no later than 8:30 we will make those set of data records available. Okay. So I'm not going to cover this in detail, but I'm also going to show you another document that's going to be quite helpful to understand as well. So look at this, at your own leisure. Please ask questions, as many questions you want. We'll take as many calls and answer as many questions as you guys need to be comfortable. And it spans right through for the EDM side. And then there's a currency derivatives perspective as well. What we've also done is we've created an Excel document as another tool to help clients to work through this transition. And what it basically does is it presents the same as is and to be picture, but in a much more granular detail. And what we've also done is we've created some matrices that actually go down to the field level. So you'll be able to see if you're interested in a particular field, you'll be able to go down to the matrix and work out exactly which data record or data records that field's going to be available. And I'll just give you a quick teaser. Okay, as usual, Murphy's Law. Just bear with me. Okay, I don't know why it's changed. Just believe it or not, this was working half an hour ago. Okay. Okay. So just go to the directory. It is it. Okay. All right. So basically, what it is it's made up of a number of sheets, and this first sheet is a cover page, and it just really describes the layout and how to interpret the actual document. This one is pretty much a representation of what you saw in the actual presentation, so it gives you details, but it goes right down to field level. Okay, so on the left-hand side, on this side is the as is, taking you to the to be, and in the middle there's a couple of change details. These legends here just simply mean one DR, one data record to one data record, and you'll see that there are different kind of permutations that one will see. So for an example, there's one web report, so currently there's a web report, it only becomes a data record. Over here there's a web report and a data record. It's been combined into a data record and a web report. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to navigate that quite easily if you follow this spreadsheet. The other two sheets are basically the field level. So we've listed all the fields, and then running horizontally we've actually put the data records and the web report. So it's a nice, very easy way to actually get down to a particular field that you might have an interest in. Okay. Cool. We're going to make this document available on the JC website with the presentation. Okay, so I think as we're speaking, Sandra's making that happen. So once again, there's a lot of detail. I really just wanted to use the time to explain to you the structure of the document and the value it can provide to you. We thought it was quite important because there's lots of different changes. That for us was going to be the easiest way for you guys to work out exactly the changes that are happening on the non-life space. I felt this was useful just to go over a couple of the value points. So the one is obviously we're going to be making a lot more data feeds available. Okay. We now have level 2, we have level 1, we've got throttled and unthrottled. So it's quite a wider choice of data feeds. We're also going to make the lives easier for our international clients that are using our POP service, because now we're going to give them more data, but we also, very importantly, we're going to introduce currency derivatives there, which I know a couple of our POP clients have been asking for. I know Warren there is a very happy man. Okay. And then obviously, because we started to standardize, move all our markets over to MIT technology, the benefits is that the range of skills and complexity becomes easier because it's something that one's used to. It's something that one's coded to. And as we move the other markets, over time, you'll see that becomes much easier, rather than having to deal with different formats, different protocols. On the non-life side of things, we're obviously going to provide much more data. We're also going to provide the data in a more standardized manner so that, once again, it talks to let's stick to as few formats as possible so clients don't have these skills challenges. They don't have to figure out, have different types of skills available and different types of people that can start focusing on the same set of skills. What's very useful about moving to the data record world as well is that we apply SLAs to those data records, and what comes with SLAs is that if we have problems with delivering those data records, we start sending proactive alerts. All right. I mean, that's something that's quite entrenched in the equity market and in the indices space, and now we're moving that across in a big way to the derivatives markets. And I think clients just appreciate that, especially the people at the end waiting for, what's happened to the data file, why am I not getting it? You compound the problem by not giving good communications. I remember speaking to a colleague just the other day, and I was using the SAA example the other day where the cabin crew went on strike. You know, can you imagine? People's flights were postponed and they were cancelled, but the poor passengers had to sit in that airport for the whole entire day because SAA just weren't communicating. We don't want to be the SAA. So if we have problems, we want to try and as proactively as possible alert the people that are dependent and are sitting there, and obviously their automated routines waiting for those data records. Those proactive alerts are quite useful. What's also very important, the value that you get with moving to a data record world is that if we make changes to the data records, we give you proactive advance notice. Okay, so you know, publishing web reports on the JSE website does become a challenge, and purely because when we make changes to the web reports, we have no full sense of who's actually using those web reports. So we have no way of telling people, listen, we're going to make changes. And we have had some, we've had some unpleasant incidents where changes were made, and we had a lot of unhappy clients the day after. Even though those web reports had no SLA, there was certainly like a perceived SLA because we were making it available on a regular basis. You know, with the data record world, it's a much more structured way. We make sure that every time we want to do a change to a data record, we assess the level of impact to clients, and then we decide exactly how much notice we want to give clients. We also then give clients test data, and we give clients a tracked changed specifications document. And that, I think everybody feels that that's the right way to go. Also moving to covering the subscriptions by the data agreement is that, you know, clients have certainty as to what they are allowed and not allowed to do with the data, because they fully understand what are the license rights with the data. All right, so yes, you know, covering the subscription, the data subscriptions might be quite new to some clients, but it's a standard practice for us, and we feel that's the value. It gives certainty to both sides. It gives certainty to the JSE, and it gives certainty to the clients what they can and cannot do. We wouldn't want to be in a difficult, tricky situation where we go and conduct a data audit, and you know the data's been never intentionally, but obviously accidentally been the use has been extended. We'd rather, our philosophy is we want to help clients and educate clients, and by that is we cover it through the data agreement. For each data product and the data uses, we're very prescriptive as to what are the license rights. So from a legal and commercial perspective, we will require every company that subscribes to the live and non-live data to sign the JSE data agreement. Now this might be shock and horror, but you know, when we've done the analysis, pretty much most of our clients already have the data agreement. So the effect is really going to be that you're going to change, you're going to have to sign some change schedules or sign some new schedules. We're also going to require the clearing members to sign the data agreement to cover that subset of public data that's available through the RTC feed, okay? Once again, just to make sure that that data is ring-fenced for their operational functioning. If they use that data in another manner, there might be different license implications. And once again, the clearing members, our analysis is that practically all of them already have a directed data agreement with the JSE or are covered by a group arrangement through one of their group entities. And obviously the kicker is that the data agreement must be completed and must be signed. The market data team in the Information Services Division will help clients through this journey, all right? We will very clearly, at the right time, communicate exactly what the changes are, and then we will work our way through each client and help them through what needs to be changed and to get it done by the date. Obviously, you know, every member, but Warren, right now every member already has the data agreement signed. Okay. As well. So it's an important point. We don't make clients sign the data agreement just purely when it involves chargeable data. If it's access to the data, we make clients sign. All right. So I think that's why, we're fairly confident that we've got everybody covered. Obviously, because we are, putting a lot of effort into revamping the data products and, creating structured products and making sure that you're going to get a elevated level of service around those products. We are going to look at reviewing what our commercial stance is on those data products. Okay, we are going to consult with a representative set of clients, and we are going to try and make this as reasonable as possible. And obviously, we are going to see what the fees are per data use. Okay, we're going to also try and keep our review and our thinking pretty much aligned to the way we do the equity market as much as possible. Once again, to reduce the complexity, so we don't end up in a situation where we've come up with radically different way of data fees. So this is just a very transparent heads up. All right. I mean, we still have to do the review. We're busy starting it. At the right time, we will reveal it, and then we will engage with some of the clients and test our thinking with some of the clients. Yeah, and it's pretty much what I said there. At the right time, I'll talk about it in the journey slide. We will try as early as possible communicate what those impacts are, so clients can make an informed decision. Okay. So from a journey perspective, from providing specifications, we've already provided the live market data specifications. The latest version was the 6th of March. It's on the JSE website. We've also made the CTS environment available on the 3rd of April. So we obviously now, clients are ready and are able to actually start thinking about how they're going to test and how they're going to conform for live data, because conformance is a prerequisite for going live for live data. Step 3 is we've made the non-live product specs available, the first version. So that was on the 31st of January this year. Okay, it's on the website. It might not have got the airspace, but hopefully now with this presentation, and you guys will be much more aware of it. Step 4, communicating it. So we are, that's today's session is step 4, but today is not the only time we're going to talk to you about market data changes. We will think about how other ways we can communicate it. We want to be sure that we don't leave any passengers behind, and that everybody's in the clear as to exactly what's changing. Step 5, we are going to provide test data. So we have had requests, and I've put provisional purely because we are busy doing our internal testing. I don't want to be in a situation that we provide test data to clients and find that it's full of bugs and we've got gaps all over the place. So our internal teams are just want to get that level of confidence. So once again, July is not the target. July is for us is like the end point. So we will try and get that test data, make it available as soon as possible. And then because, once clients start working with the specs and with the test data, they ask questions. And yes, we'd like to say that we're perfect every time, but there are some very sharp clients out there, and it might require us to do some tweaks to these specifications. So I've made a provision that at some point in time we'll publish a revised spec document for the non-live data. Okay, we'll publish as many versions as is required. We obviously don't want to drown you, but every time we publish the revised version, be assured it's going to be in tracked mode, so you can very easily see from the previous version to the next version what's changed. I mean, I'd hate to give you like an untracked version. That would just be crazy. Okay, so step 7 is pretty much the legal and data fees. Once we've gone through that exhaustive exercise, we've done some initial thinking, we've tested it with some of the clients, we've tested internally with our colleagues as well. Because remember, it touches on a number of our colleagues inside the JSE. We will then come up with the legal changes and the data fees, and we'll start communicating that. Whether we communicate them separately or together, we haven't decided yet, but we've pinpointed in the latter part of the year, but by no later than like end of September. All right. And once again, I've just put there as a safeguard, but we will try and get that information out as early as possible. And then obviously leading up to it, once the legal changes and the data fees are in the open and in the public domain, then we will be answering questions as much as possible. All right. Step 9 is we will then obviously require the client to sign the data agreement. So we will then work with every client that that we can pick up. We will make sure that the transition is as painless as possible. All right. And then the last step in that journey is, you know, you've now got a good sense of what are the legal changes. We've actually committed them to the agreement. You have a very good sense of what products you're going to subscribe to, what data records, how's your live subscription going to take shape. We then make sure that you are ready for production, for go live. And this comp session today is just the start. We will see exactly, and we'll feed a lot of what questions come down the line. If we're finding that a particular area is still opaque and you know we haven't explained it well enough, we will decide how we're going to get that concept across in a much easier manner. You know, for your convenience, I just thought this would be useful. I've taken the key market data documents and I've created hyperlinks to them. All right, so the live specs, the non-live specs. Over here is the change impact analysis document that I demonstrated. That Excel workbook is sitting over there. There's a volume here for the RTC feed that explains exactly what public market data is there. There's a section there, I think, Lionel, market data, if I remember.
So it's got a list of all the data that's required to interface to RTC. That includes reference data as well as market data.
Cool. And then we'll be making this presentation available on the JC website, because I think between this presentation and that Excel workbook, I think personally, I think it will help clients that have been wondering and not having a complete picture of the market data space, is exactly getting a more complete picture. And that's it. The number over here, sorry, I apologize. The number over here is our customer support center. All right, so they jacked up and they're ready to answer your questions. If they need help, they'll come down to the subject matter experts. They've already been gone through this presentation, so we wanted to make sure that they had an understanding before we actually presented this to you guys. The last thing we want to do is that you start sending through questions and they're just equally in the dark. Okay, and that's the end. Questions? Well, either I've done a good job or I've done a very bad job.
So just to get what it means,
Wait.
Hello. ITaC will provide the information via your API to whatever API you use in the training environment, live data. That's correct?
Yes.
All right, so all non-live data I will be able to get through your web interface.
No, all the non-live data will be through the data records. Okay.
Through the data records. Where do I access those data records?
So what you do is you connect to our FTP server, our IDP FTP server. Mm-hmm. It allows internet connection, so it doesn't need to require physical connection. Okay. And what we typically do, the way it's set up, is that we create a client-specific file, and we only drop the records that you subscribe to in that file. Okay. So it's a guaranteed every day, or depending obviously on the frequency of the data, the spec document will describe exactly which data records go into which files, and those files will right now, until we change the design, those files are pretty much for your company. So you will only get the data records that you are you've signed up for.
And we will receive preset. I can preset those requirements, and I can get them on a daily basis the way I want to get them whenever it's released. That's what you mean?
I'm not sure if I'm understanding you. So the data records are, each data record has a fixed format.
Okay, no, that's what I wanted to know.
So in other words, you take all the data records and then you decide which fields out of those data records you are interested in.
Right. Now my next question is, maybe I've got it wrong. If I want to set up a new trader in my company through the new ITaC, pretty much as it is now, anybody in my company can call JSE and ask for a password change, and there's nobody really knowing who's calling, number one. So if I set up a new trader, how is that going to work? Is it going to be through my API? Is it going to be through, how is it going to work? Do you understand my question?
I think Martin, maybe you want to field this one?
So again, because it's an API at the moment, and we create the trader, and we've got the logic sitting here where we reset password. That will be back on your side for a trader, where within your company or firm or the SIP you use or wherever, that logic will sit there to reset the password of a guy logging in from his computer directly. It'll sit on that side. We will make sure that all the technical connectivity on the comp ID level, those passwords we will reset. That's the only time you phone us. So it's almost the IT side will phone the JSE directly to saying my connection needs to be reset on the password level.
Okay, that's the one part. The second part is, if I set up new traders within my company, currently what we do, we send a mail to the JSE or we connect to the JSE and they have to set up a new trader. How is it going to work now?
Yes, so that process will remain the same, except that we won't control the passwords and all of that from a trader perspective. That moves to you, but we'll still only be able to create that trader on our back-end system for the logic of what you send us, same way forward.
All right.
Neil, I have some questions on the webinar. Just bear with me. So the first question comes from Emlyn Flint. What is the reason for, sorry, it's just jumped pages. What is the reason for only providing PDFs on the website, given that creation of a PDF is of equal difficulty as Excel spreadsheets?
You know, we had to serve two interests. We had to make sure that a certain amount of information was still available to the general public, but we obviously wanted to create products in a format that was suitable for automated processing. Okay, so we see our primary way of providing for the automated processing being the data records, and for the general public PDF. So
the data records downloadable via IDP.
So the data records downloadable via IDP. The PDF reports, once again, we see that as changing to a viewing need only, and that's why we decided to put it in PDF, because that's the easiest way for people to actually view the reports.
Okay, thank you. Then a question from Kays. Do we have some figures on the latency of the data coming from the POP versus Colo? I have asked a question. I'm not sure if his question around the latency is related to live or non-live, but I don't know if you want to answer that.
Well, definitely would have to be live. So Martin, I don't know if you can assist.
So the latency will be similar to what we currently have on the POP, which is around, I think we call it below 200 milliseconds on a round trip basis. So round trip doesn't really make sense, but well, up 200 milliseconds. Sorry.
For live data.
For live data, yeah.
And then one more question from Emlyn. In terms of non-live data currently available on the website, what will happen to the existing historical files in terms of the new shift to the FTP-based data records?
That's quite a good question. We haven't really made a decision yet. So it's either going to take one of two forms. We're either going to keep those web reports there as history. Okay, it's probably going to be the preferred way, but we haven't yet made a firm decision. It wouldn't make sense for us to take the data off, but we haven't discussed it and made a firm decision.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Any more questions? Any questions on the teleconference for people dialed into teleconference? None. Thank
Cool,
you.
cool. Guys, listen, there's still stacks of food left. Please help yourself. And thank you once again for the time you've taken to come to this comm session. I'll be here for quite a while. If you guys have questions that you didn't really want to ask in an open forum, by all means, come and chat to me. Thank you.
Just bring me up. Okay, the presentation and the spreadsheet are both available on the ITaC website already. The presentation obviously under presentations and the spreadsheet under the non-live market data section.